Well, let's speak now to Alan Miller, who's co-founder of the Together Declaration. Alan, now, you know, I'm sure a lot of people would agree, get round and point out that smoking kills. Yes, we know that. Makes your fingers go yellow, your teeth look like tombstones, and frankly, you end up smelling like Dot Cotton's bed linen. And nobody finds any of that attractive. But, you know, that kind of is mitigated if you're having it outside somewhat. I don't get where they're going with this.
So the thing is, Alex, this has really never really been about health. It's been about behaviour. The argument was made originally with a ban on smoking. It was to protect the health of other people that were workers or visitors. There was never as clear epidemiological evidence of that as there was about first-hand smoking, which is absolutely been corroborated. It's very clear that if you smoke, you're far more likely to be predisposed towards lung cancer, heart disease, and lots of horrible other illnesses. But of course, adults should be allowed to make decisions, and they're often called vices, that could be seen as being silly or stupid or even dangerous to themselves, providing they're not harming anyone else. And now what we've seen is that it's not really about that at all. When you start saying we're going to ban smoking in parks or outside football stadiums, racing tracks, and of course the pub in the garden, it's much more to do with the thing. We don't like you, that sort of person, that sort of behaviour. And Alex, there's around 13%, I think, of people who smoke in Britain. I mean, it's not like the last bits of legislation have not been impactful enough. They've had an enormous impact on hospitality. As you say, many people more now buy from off licences and drink at home. It has all sorts of other implications about our social fabric, about our rites of passage, about drinking with all sorts of intergenerational people. And also about not having, you know, to behave in a certain way around all of that. Part of our culture, discussion, really, really important issues. But what this really reflects is this idea by some technocrats that actually they know best. And it's not just smoking, Alex. It's also drinking, obsession with units, it's food. But what it means is, are you the right type of person? We can enjoy a glass of claret. We can go on in a limo to go and talk about, you know, net zero. You, the mob, the great unwashed, you need to have behaviour modification. We're going to impose these limits. Now, you could encourage people not to smoke. You could say, look, it's really not healthy. But also there's a payoff, right? People get some pleasure from some things. And they have to be allowed to make decisions that we might think are silly, right? That's the whole point about enlightened attitudes, such as tolerance. You tolerate things, but you could argue critically against them. And what we're seeing now, Alex, right, which I'm very concerned about, is this sense that we're going to have impositions coming along. You know, at the same time, whilst let's be honest, right, you're saying you're going to have these measures. Who's going to pay for this, right? Are you really going to imprison people or give them fines, or are you going to penalise venues, which is what's been happening? And it's going to be penalising venues, increasingly asking them to take responsibility for individual action, which is also dangerous because under English law, the individual should be responsible for their behaviour. But we've had venues being held accountable for things that have happened outside venues, down the road, and even at home. And there's this constant pressure of suffocation, of limits, restrictions, that these technocrats who aren't going to build new hospitals or get productivity going, but much more it's about you're doing the wrong kind of behaviour. And it's also based on a really spurious idea, right? Actually, lots of studies have shown that this isn't going to relieve pressure on the NHS, as though that would be a reason to do it in any case. And where have we heard this before? Let's save the NHS. But and so on every metric, this is very, very problematic. It's regressive. And actually, we'd encourage it together, people to actually argue back against this, write to councillors and MPs, but also I think we need to do a bit of mobilisation, have people stand and assert themselves and say, we're not going to have the busybody nanny state do this. It should focus its attention elsewhere.
Blimey, careful what you say there, Alan. You'll be in clink for inciting a riot. But, you know, this is what alarms me, and I want to pick up on something that you said, which is I think, very true and very close to my heart, which is the sense that, for whatever reason, the left wing of politics really detest the middle classes. They hate them. They really don't like them at all. And I don't know if they have been, you know, because the working classes essentially have been inoculated against the lunacy of the left wing. They've not had to kowtow to the taboos and the pronouns and the subconscious bias training to get to the top of their workplaces. They don't have the Guardian under their arms. They haven't been brainwashed with all of the rot, as Starmer would say, that the rest of us have been had inflicted upon us. And also they live at the sharp end of those decisions. And the left wing just detests them. They really hate the working classes. They think there's something degenerate and wrong with them. And that this is what I think is going on here, because like you said, when they go to their venues and then have their, you know, cigar out on a terrace of their private members club, who no doubt will get away with circumventing this rule, the people that they hate are the people who go to Wetherspoons. And that, to me, is what all of this is about. And the minute you start allowing the government to control the salt of the earth, our working-class men and women who built this country, who'd be the first on the front line to fight for this country, to me, it's putting a stake through the heart of what Britain is all about.
It's absolutely the case that the people that are currently making more laws have a disdain and disgust for working people, everyday people, the working class and the middle class. They think we're the wrong kind of people. All these terms like gammon, white van man, chav, all these terrible, disgusting terms that reflect our neighbours, our friends, the backbone of British society, right? That are generally really decent, brilliant people. And this is the point about hospitality. It's a place we come, we engage with one another, we fall in love, we get the new artistic Stormzy or Adele on the dance floor, the new fashion elements, all new food, hoteliers, all the things that actually are exports internationally and part of our soft power. And yet, when they talk about us, they talk about the public as this nasty mob. In fact, in the last 20 years, everything's been about controlling spaces, don't give out flyers, have it super hyper-regulated, public space protection orders like an ASBO, as though somehow the great and the good, these technocrats should tell us what to do. If you start joining all the dots, it looks very similar to low-traffic neighbourhoods, to 15-minute cities, to uber hyper-control.
All the stuff that affects the working classes. This stuff doesn't affect the people in the leafy boroughs. This stuff doesn't affect people who can afford to get their Ubers and aren't driving a white van. It's constantly beating down, because that's what they like to do, isn't it, Russell? They like to beat down. This is the problem I've got with a lot of people on the far left. They, to me, are people who have been bullied at school. They seem to only like people who they can look at and go, well, they're a misfit and they're even worse off than me. You know, if you're a short-fringed, green-haired man in a frock, or you've come over by dinghy, well, your lot in life is probably worse than mine, so you're fine. Everybody else they just despise.
And look, we're seeing, I mean, even faster than most of us thought would happen, the sixth form hard left ideology of authoritarianism playing out from our government across the people that actually elected them. Well, some of you did, I didn't. And it is nothing short of just command and control, as Alan says. The problem, of course, with this is, even though you'll have some people saying, as I've seen on social media this morning, well, of course, smoking's bad. Well, OK, lots of things are bad. I mean, cars kill people. Should we ban them? Sugar's bad. Should we ban it? Alcohol's bad. Should we ban it? Going out at night, that can be bad. Should we ban it? I mean, seriously, this is a slippery slope to oblivion. Yes, the Labour Party, the Labour government, are not seeing the unintended consequences of this, but they don't care about the unintended consequences.
I think they know the unintended consequences.
Do you know what they care about? They care about the sixth form ideology, the pathetic politics that this is. But also, let's be very, very clear, and I'm sure Alan will agree with this, this is simply, it boils down to the same thing. It's the politics of envy. And that is what we get from the left. They don't like wealth, they don't like success, they don't like people enjoying themselves, and they also want to control us so that we have to lean into the state, so that the state therefore justifies its own existence. Yeah,
I mean, Alan, what do you think that their favourite word is don't?
Well, I think it's very interesting, and I know we've got a big event coming up, which I hope you guys will join us for on Friday, the 20th of September, where we're appealing to the public in this year ahead to challenge these so many egregious measures. You jokingly referred to, I might be hauled out in front of the judge or in prison for saying certain things like, let's get together and do something. But these are really key measures. And the point about this disgust with the public, with the demos, and the idea that these technocrats know best. We can see it as well. It's not just in the smoking ban that's being levelled. We see it with, we're going to come and weigh you at work, we're told today, right? But also, you can insist on a 4-day week. We can't even get productivity going and high results. It's this patronising, infantilising, demonising view of working people, everyday people. We're disgusting, but the great and the good, they can have a little bit of a nice red wine or a cocktail, but they need to put these measures on us, because who knows, if we get together and have a chat, all these terrible things happen. They call us Nazis all the time. I think the British public are sick to death of this. What's historic about this government is how few people voted for it. I think it's high time that a lot of your viewers who have supported us, more of them get involved in the campaigns to challenge these attacks on fundamental rights and liberties, actually. And we just don't do things like that in Britain, right? We shouldn't be doing things. This is about our way of life and our culture, and these attacks need to stop.
I couldn't agree more, Alan. Keep up the good work. Co-founder there of the Together Declaration. Look them up on social media.